From the studios of Foxborough Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Welcome to a special edition of Around Foxborough, the show where we talk to the people, places, and things that make Foxborough the gem of Norfolk County. My name is Mark Rivard, and I'm pleased to have as my guest tonight members of the Foxborough Founders Day Committee. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
We have Steve Uden, Kerry Rosado, Frank Sturm, and Monica Fissler.
Hello.
Hello. So tell us a little bit what's going on. We heard some bad news that Founders Day was canceled, and for the first time in 30 years. So tell us a little bit what's going on behind the scenes, what we're going to be doing. You want to start off, Steve?
Sure. As everybody can probably imagine, in Foxborough, it was an extremely difficult decision for us and took a couple of meetings to get there. But really, what's guiding us and many other organizations is the governor's, orders for safe distancing. And so after a lot of conversation, we decided that we just flat out would cancel Founders Day. But there's an asterisk on that, and we'll discuss that later in the show. But there will not be the traditional Founders Day this year for safety reasons. And that's pretty much where we stand right now. We're very sorry, and a lot of us are brokenhearted about it. And but we expect to come back full throttle next year as things allow, and maybe even have a few surprises this year that will involve safe distancing and some creativity from a subcommittee that we put together and work with the general board.
Great. Yeah, I can imagine it was a very hard decision to come by, but an obvious decision considering parade routes and everybody together on the field. Tell us a little bit more about, a little bit more about this. Kerry, do you have something?
Yeah, we actually, we waited as long as we could, waiting on decisions and see if timeframes would change. We had actually already engaged some of last year's participants and then had to go back and get in touch with them. And the response has been really great. Everyone was, very sad to see it happen, but you guys, you made the right decision for this year to keep everyone safe. So it's, again, we'll be looking forward to next year to re-engage everyone and get everyone back out there, because it is a great event for the whole community to come out, see one another. You meet old neighbors, old friends, old relatives. So it's a really good event for the town.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to have a super gigantic, epic Founders Day next year, right?
Okay, you can lead the committee, Mark.
What? No, I volunteered. I always put my foot in my mouth when I get on.
We'll be looking for that large donation from Cablevision.
Actually, if I could just add one thing, and
Sure.
I think everybody from the group here will agree. Aside from the sentimental and celebratory part of Founders Day that we all know and love, I think probably the biggest difficulty that we all had as a group was the nonprofits that will just frankly be unable through Founders Day to raise substantial funds they raise throughout the day on the South Field during the middle of Founders Day. And that weighed very heavily on all of us, if I'm not correct, right, team? And
Agreed.
we're just not going to be able to have that. But our sponsors started out being very generous and still are to an extent. But we're also, needing to manage our funding, incoming and present, and balance it all with the rules of the road that we have to follow during the COVID-19 distancing and the governor's orders.
Right. And not to mention all the work you put in. I mean, a lot of people don't realize Founders Day is a year-long thing. As soon as the last one is done, the last, hot dog is sold and the field is cleared out, you guys just working on it again for the next year. I mean, it's not something that's just put together in a month. It's a year's worth of time. So you must be disappointed too, all the work you put in, and to not have this happen. It's a lot. It's a tough decision to make all around.
Yeah, because it would have been a great thing to help pass the time.
That's true.
Monica does, and I'm not singling anyone out, but Monica does a substantial part of the many parts that we have, and that is organizing the parade. That she and her family put an enormous amount of work in over the years.
Oh,
And well, it's true. I don't think anybody would doubt that in our group. But the effort is a team effort. But there are some people that may even be relieved to have a breather this year from the intensity of it. But it's not prohibitive. I mean, we're always looking for volunteers, and you can swim in the shallow end of the pool or the deep end of the pool with your volunteerism. We're a very resilient group, and I just want to thank Monica and Carrie for putting the parade and the field together over the last few and many years, in some cases with Monica, to keep Founders Day remarkable and smooth and safe, above all, safe for everyone. Monica, do you want to talk about how the parade is sort of affected by this?
well, I definitely want to say a huge thank you to the entire committee. We do work a lot of hours towards this. Yes, it's kind of nice to have a little break, but the break is for something bigger and brighter and better for next year. So one of the groups that we have put out a message saying, hey, we'll be back next year. Our float's going to be bigger. We're going to be bigger. So understanding. This is such uncharted territory for every organization to go through. So we're very grateful that everybody has been kind. And I think that's the big key is we all just need to stay strong and know that we're not going away forever. We are following the guidelines for this year, and we'll be back next year.
I guess we can tell a message to everybody out there that, hey, start brainstorming of some great float ideas for next year.
Absolutely.
Social distance float building. Let's try it.
We've had some really good
mile
ones.
apart per float.
There you go. It'll be a long parade.
The longest parade in Foxborough history. One of the other things I'd just like to mention is for folks watching this, the people on this screen are minuscule to the number of people that are on our committee. And they're not here as absentees. It's just that we are the ones that, I don't know, drew the short straw to go on. No, so we are a team, and we're always looking for more volunteers. Always happy to see them.
And you can find them. You know who the Founders Day committee is. You see the yellow shirts that Monica's wearing right now. You see them all over the field. They're all over Founders Day. If you had a problem, a question, that's the person you go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think another good point too in terms of volunteers is and you guys have kind of mentioned this before, but certainly the people that the groups that volunteer after the big day, and help clean up the field. I mean, I think that sometimes, I mean, I think they certainly get recognition, but maybe not as much because they're not out in Founders Day and volunteering. They don't maybe have the shirts on. They're kind of helping us clean up, but that's such a huge part of it. I mean, certainly we want to be able to put on, Founders Day. And we have a really good committee that works really hard, but I can't imagine just us going out there, cleaning up everything and picking everything up, without a lot of the volunteers and groups we have. So, certainly going into next year, still, I mean, we're always looking for help and, for volunteers and again, I mean, I think there's always time to thank them. So, even if we don't have, the day this year.
Well, Frank makes a good point, Mark. And Frank is one of those people that you don't see a lot, but he's our director of communications for Foxborough Founders Day, and does an enormous amount of tactical outbound messaging composition and getting it ready to go to the press and the other social media sites that we use, predominantly the Founders Day website and the Founders Day Facebook site. That's where our friends of Founders Day, our friends of Founders Day, are going to find any information that is from, if you will, the horse's mouth. Every other place is nice and spreads the messages for us, but the Founders Day Facebook site and our website is where people can find out information as we disseminate it. Right, Frank?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I would agree with that. I mean, we try to do our best to get, the word out, to everybody as soon as possible, and we tried to do that, this year as well. And like we talked about before, I mean, we were monitoring, the situation as best as we could, for the past, couple months. And then, when we had to pull the plug on it, we tried to coordinate the message as best we can, so we didn't, confuse anybody. I mean, certainly we have, people who are donating. So we want to make sure that, that message is really consistent across the board, and that we're all kind of on the same page, and, certainly going, I mean, this is part of it as well, going on a program like this and just speaking more to it, so we want to make sure that we have everything lined up. So like, we're not, we're not, confusing anybody. So I think we all did a good job with that. But again, I mean, it's a little unprecedented, but I think overall we did a really good job.
And we're grateful to Foxborough Cable Access for helping us get our messaging, plural, out as time marches on. And Carrie, his wife, is an integral part of our group as well, because she's our treasurer. And those are other things that, take, time and focus to make it all happen. So I like to say to people that are looking to volunteer that it's like throwing the same wedding for the same wedding party every year. So we have a lot of stuff in the book that we know how to do and execute, and that's great, right? But the wedding day is the Founders Day, and this one's going to be a little different.
I was a wedding DJ for 20 years. Trust me, I know how weddings can change at the last minute.
The song "Celebration" by Kool and the Gang?
No, can you hum a few bars?
No.
Thank you.
Not at all.
So what's up with, obviously, I've held the rockets for, the fireworks.
Yep.
So obviously you have some money collected for that. Maybe we can get the word out now. People can donate and more, and we can have an even bigger fireworks celebration for next year. What do you think? Possible? I'm not volunteering my services to light the fireworks.
We on Founders Day,
before Steve says anything,
we use money for a lot of things. So if anybody ever wants to make a donation, Founders Day uses its funds for Founders Day. For example, on Founders Day or other meetings, those of us on the show here and those that aren't with us, we buy our own pizza, we buy our own bottled water. We don't take anybody's money and squander it on any luxuries for Founders Day. Everything is self-funded by us for whatever we need. And so donations are always welcome, but it's important to understand that whatever we do this year will be used for a couple of little projects that we're working on that we can talk about very soon, I hope. And then it will be, ready for next year for, to execute what we come up with.
Excellent. So you were talking about these ideas, what we can do now. And that you piqued my interest, and I'm sure everybody else out there. So, want to spill the beans? Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Off camera, I have my attorney and my other attorney next to me giving me guidance on what to say. But basically, there are two hallmarks of Founders Day when we're making this decision. What we did as a board is when we decided to not hold Founders Day and voted on it, and then that was the answer. Our chairman, Scott O'Donnell, and the rest of the board put together a subcommittee of us on Founders Day committee to investigate what we'll unofficially call Founders Day Light, or something like that. We don't have a full-blown plan yet, but we do have two ideas that we're working on, and I'll talk very high level right now because there's more to come. But the carriage and cart parade is something that a lot of people in this community treasure and enjoy, and it's heartwarming and it's funny, and the families and children are very clever that do it. So what we're trying to put together and are working on it presently. We just had a meeting about it a couple of nights ago, the subcommittee, about how to do the doll carriage parade in concert with our friends, you and others at FCA. And we have a couple people in town that have agreed to help us, and we're putting that together and plan to get more information out as we solidify it. It may not be on the day of Founders Day, but it will be a production that can be disseminated on the internet as well as on Foxborough Cable Access. So we still want to keep the essence of the doll carriage and of the carriage and cart parade, and maybe even add bikes. We're not sure, but it's still meant for the children, you know, with help and safety and guidance from their loved ones, helping them construct these things. And the other thing is, and Frank alluded to this at the beginning of the show, we're just going to talk lightly about it, but if there's a way for us to, in concert with town hall, public safety, you know, the right people that we work with every year, to have some kind of decoration up on the common, either for a day or a couple of days or something like that. We're working on that, but that's a work in progress, because what we don't want to have is our charter. For those who don't know, we are not a commercial organization, and we don't take commercial sponsorships of any kind. You can buy a banner for the field and those sorts of things, but we don't want to have, you know, corporate stuff around. But if people can still have what we are calling the Monica, maybe I got it right or maybe I got it wrong, the flat float, you know, like some kind of banner or something like that, and we can find a place to decorate it and not draw large crowds, but maybe have people drive by it. That's our second thing that we'd like to pull off this year. So stay tuned, as you say in your business, and with Frank and the team, we expect to get some information out soon about how we're going to do those two things, if they can come to pass. I mean, you know, we're doing it a different way, so we'll see.
Right, and you get the word from the lawyers on the side of you, right?
Yeah, one guy's actually poking me in the side, but below the screen right now with a ruler. It's uncomfortable.
The law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, right?
No, we use ropes and gray. We don't pull them. But yeah, so that's our high level view. And please, my friends on this call, chime in. Did I get the messaging right, Frank, Monica, Kerry?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The eyes have it.
Yep.
The eyes have it. And we still may have some t-shirty type thing that we might be able to do. And we're working on that as well. But distribution is not as easy as it used to be, right?
Right.
So
That's true.
We'll see. But we've got a couple of nice ideas, all in the spirit of Founders Day, and
that's great to hear.
Pass away, yeah.
So in other words, stay tuned to the Foxborough Founders Day webpage. Stay tuned to the Facebook page for more updates.
And maybe things that we may scroll on your network, right? On the FCA, like
absolutely,
banner signs or whatever that say, you know, go here to see this or whatever, something like that. Frank's masterful with other people on the board at getting messaging out accurately and properly.
Way to go, Frank.
Do my best.
So I guess I can ask this question too. So if anybody wants to get involved in the Founders Day committee, what do they need to do? Where do they need to contact you?
Yep. So they can either just shoot us an email or at Foxborough Founders Day at gmail.com. All one word, or they can also reach out to us on our Facebook page. You know, we post, I mean, any update that we post on the website is going to coincide with the Facebook page as well. So, you know, we really do utilize that. And we also check on messages as regularly as possible. So those are the two places that they can reach out to us about.
And around town, if you see somebody somewhere that you know is a Founders Day member, or past or present. You can even say, how do I get in contact with them?
Right.
And a lot of people know a lot of people here in town. So it's not easy to, it's not hard to find Founders Day volunteer opportunities at all.
Just harder to find the Foxborough Day Founders Committee because everybody's wearing a mask.
Well, Monica, maybe you want to elaborate on this, Monica. But if we weren't socially distant and living in the Zoom world that we're living in right now, we meet with a regular cadence throughout the year with a very small gap of quiet time. Did you want to sort of talk about that, Monica, and how things will change when things get better?
Sure. We've been lucky enough to be able to meet. We meet once a month. It's the first Tuesday of every month at the Marilyn Rodman Performing Arts Center. It's at 7 p.m. that we have been meeting. We have lately been doing Zoom calls, which is always fun. You get to see a different side of people. So for right now, we are on Zoom. If you reach out, as Frank had said, through the different media, we can get you in contact with how to be a part of our next few meetings as we're being socially distant. After we're allowed to be in small gatherings or large gatherings, we will continue to meet the first Tuesday of every month at the Marilyn Rodman Performing Arts Center. And then as we get closer to the actual day of the event, in May, we start meeting once a week just to finalize any last minute details, make sure everybody has an idea of what's happening that day, what we're going to do. So again, as Steve and everyone on this committee has mentioned, we meet throughout the year, but a lot of our what's happening for the event happens in May. So right about now. So we are actually meeting again tomorrow night. So if you'd like to contact us, we'll be happy to get you in touch with the call.
Awesome.
And to Monica, it really to you guys is what you were really just saying. I mean, it's I mean, I've been volunteering now for a few years, and I mean, it's really a lot of fun. It's just a great way to meet, people in Foxborough, and there's always something to do. I think one of the things that we talk about as a committee, and certainly, anybody that we meet that comes on board as well, is, you don't have to really necessarily know what you want to do, when you volunteer. I mean, I think that could be, I can't speak for anybody else, but it could be intimidating, I suppose. I mean, especially if it's the first time that you're, volunteering in a community, event, or even if it's something, that you've been, doing your entire life, elsewhere. I think just contacting us and saying, hey, I'm really interested in doing this. I really like to volunteer. That's something that we could talk to you about. I mean, we certainly have, a lot of different chairs, whether or not it's like, the field or, the parade, or certainly with publicity, what I do. I mean, there's always something to do, so certainly having that conversation. And I think it's also important to know that, we don't pressure anybody into doing one thing or the other, so sometimes there are plenty of people who, that help out, at the day of the event. There's always, really something to do. So, I would just encourage, people to, if this is, if they would like to volunteer, just have an open mind and, talk to one of us, and, we'd be happy to kind of bring you into the group. So.
Carrie has done a marvelous job with the fields, and it's a lot of work, and been carried out beautifully over the last few years. And Monica's husband David has also been an integral part of that over the years, as well as Steve Drew and Cindy Haddad Drew, and a great many number of people. But I just, want to thank Kerry for what he's done over the years for us. And I notice he has his Founders Day T-shirt from last year. And look at that.
That's right. Nice.
There you go. There you go. So we really hope people will join us. We are a volunteer organization, but to Frank's point, the more new people that come on to our board for either long periods of time or short periods of time bring fresh ideas. For example, one of the things we were very lucky to have in the last Founders Day, and I think it was the year before, was we actually wound up having shuttle van service for safety and seniors and people that might not be able to get around the town as easily. And we had a very generous donation, if you will, from one of our selectmen, Dave Feldman, to help us have these vans around town the whole day and most of the night. And it was all safety driven. We put up little bus stops and so there's these new things that can come and constantly improve Founders Day without changing the character of it. I get that right, Kerry?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's how I got involved. About 5 years ago, we read the article in the paper that there wasn't going to be a Founders Day because they were losing volunteers because they've been doing it for years. And after a while, it does, it's a wearing weekend. So we're always looking for volunteers because there is a core group that does get together. And there's almost the same amount, to Frank's point, that show up just that weekend and enjoy just that one day helping out, which is, without their help, we wouldn't be able to do it.
Amen. It's the National Guard. If we're the Army, they're the National Guard, and they show up and help out. It's remarkable.
And that's what's great too. And a lot of people don't realize it. Just volunteering, you make a lot of lifelong friends. You learn a lot about the community. You meet more people. So this is a good forum to get that information out to people. Say, hey, maybe you should help out on Founders Day. Come and join the committee. Help us out, because fresh ideas, new faces, and more manpower. You can never have enough manpower to do these things.
Kerry and Monica and Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of us have ever walked out of any of our meetings over the years and thrown their iced coffee on the sidewalk all mad. It's very well run, and we all get along very, very well. And it's new friends and people that have been in it for longer periods of time. And so it's not as stressful as some people might be reading into it. What we're saying, we only meet for about an hour, right?
Yeah, you stole my thunder.
I'm sorry, they can edit that.
That's
out.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. From certainly from the time that I've been here, I never once felt, and I think it's an important point to bring up because everybody's a little bit different, but I never once felt pressured, at a meeting to even speak, or anything. Certainly, it's encouraged, and people love to hear, new ideas, like you had said, Steve. But again, it's it's a very welcoming environment, and everybody's really friends. And I think we all want to help each other, if we can. So,
we try our best, right? We're as perfect and imperfect as anybody else out there, but we do try our best and to have open arms to anyone that may walk in or contact us.
One more question too. So if somebody wants to donate, because cash is always appreciated too. It doesn't come cheap, it's a big event.
It's an expensive project to put together. Yep.
So how would they reach out?
You want to talk a little bit about how we can get donations? We drop them off at the town hall, right? And address it to Founders Day. I think it's 40 South Street. Frank, we might need to, I don't know if this show can have an edit where we can put up the information after we film this session, but we can probably put up a banner on how to donate just with a good old envelope and a stamp, or contact us to see how we can do it.
Sounds good. All right. Any final thoughts, before we go?
Just great thanks to FCA for helping us over the years. I don't think they've ever said no. And you folks have given us a lot of your time, which is also donated in large part. And we're all part of this community. We're so grateful. What's not to love?
Exactly. Well, great. Well, thank you very much for being on tonight. Steve Unin, Kerry Rosado, Frank Sturm, and Monica Fissler from the Foxborough Founders Day Committee. Thank you very much.
We'll see you around. We'll have some things. we love everybody in this town, and we love this town, and that's what we aim to do, is keep that love going, because it's real.
Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Mark.
for Around Foxborough, I'm Mark Rivard. Have yourself a great night.